All right, so Path of Exile just tweeted out the Druid Ascendancies. We can now see basically all of the nodes for your decision on which Ascendancy you're going to go for the Druid. So we're going to go through them. This one's the Oracle first. Now, the Oracle, we didn't see all of the nodes before, and there was some question as to why you would go the Oracle and as to what this missing node was and what inevitable critical hits actually means. Now, the worst case scenario would be that it is basically the same as the support gem. However, it is not. So I want to start by looking at inevitable criticals here. Now, this one is hits which could potentially be a critical hit, but do not roll a critical hit, will re-roll a critical hit chance until they succeed. So by inevitable critical hits, they do mean you are guaranteed basically to get critical hits. Now, the downside of this is hits have 30% less critical damage bonus for each time it's re-rolled. So you're guaranteed to get the crit, but you're going to lose some critical damage bonus in order to re-roll if you do miss. Now, obviously, you still get all your critical damage bonus if you crit for the first time, and the more critical damage bonus you have, the more that you can pull away from before you actually get down to like a normal version of damage. But let's just say you have no critical damage bonus by the end of it. You still are technically critting even if you're doing no damage, which pose into question things like this, the cast on critical hit, which is a meta gem that you can take and equip like this, and then you can put other skills basically in it, and as you're casting and critting, you're gaining more and more and more energy that allows you to actually cast another ability. That's sort of what a meta gem is, just in case you didn't know. So obviously there's some synergy there between that node and this. In order to actually get there, you got to take this node along the way, which is the lesser harm, and this is all part of this upper arc here, and this makes it where enemy critical chance against you is unlucky and damage of enemies hitting you is unlucky. If you don't know what unlucky is, but you're familiar with like Dungeons and Dragons, for instance, it's sort of like advantage and disadvantage. It rolls again. So it's going to roll it twice, and it's going to take the less of the damage against you for the damage of enemies hitting you, and for the enemy critical hit chance, it's going to roll it twice and take the better of the event for you. So basically, with having low critical hit chance on mobs, this is going to make it where you do not get crit a significant portion of time. I'm less interested in this one. It's all right. I don't think it's like a super amazing or anything, but the inevitable crits does actually look pretty good. And the next one to talk about here is the unnamed Heartwood. +1 to maximum number of summoned totems, and totems die 6 seconds after their life is reduced to 0. So this is sort of like last grasp or dying breath or whatever it's called. The minion gem that makes it where even after it's killed, they stick around for a little bit of time. This would just make it a little bit easier if you're doing a full totem build. And obviously they introduce spell totems into the game now, so there's going to be some use for this, so that way you don't have to constantly invest in like keeping your totems alive. You can just have them be out for basically a guaranteed of 6 seconds. So that one looks all right as well, and obviously +1 maximum number of summoned totems is actually quite good. And before we jump back in, I want to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, Display, your easy solution for, well, I forgot to buy Christmas presents. With the holidays coming up and with Path of Exile 2's new update dropping and with them having a sale for the holidays, now is actually the perfect time to enhance your setup or maybe doing a little Christmas shopping. And if you somehow haven't seen these before, Display are premium metal posters. Super vibrant, durable, and they look good anywhere. The office, the bedroom, living wear, with 3, 2, and they look good basically anywhere. They've got more than 2 million designs, including official art from Path of Exile, Marvel, Star Wars, Warhammer, The Witcher, and so on. So you're gonna find something perfect for yourself or for the person you're buying a gift. They also mount using magnets, which means no tools, no hose, and no damage. If you want to change it up for the holiday, swapping your art only takes seconds. But the feature I think is especially useful this month is custom displays. You can upload your own photos, family shots, pets, travel moments, anything, and turn them into a metal print. It makes for a great Christmas gift because it's personal, it's high quality, and something that people actually will want to put on their wall. So if you want to decorate for the holidays or refresh your space, maybe even knock out a bit of Christmas shopping early, check out display.com/@DM and use code DM to help support the channel. Huge thanks to Display for sponsoring this channel, and now back to the video. And then we move on to the third line down here. And this one, we don't see what the small nodes actually are going to do yet, but this one ends with a 2-pointer into grant skill, the moment of vulnerability. Now, this is like the clip that we saw in the reveal where it basically makes a clone of an enemy that is either primed for stun, electrocution, or freeze. It makes a clone of it, and you can effectively hit both of those clones as well. This one might be interesting for like boss DPS, but notably I thought it was only good or only usable on uniques. It doesn't seem to be the case because it just says hitting enemies. It doesn't say unique enemies or anything like that. So maybe there is a case for using like a Brink support gem, which makes it where they can't actually get fully stunned and then create the clone, and then maybe using like aftershocks with the bear stampede or something like that. I'm sure there's a better example of that. But there might be something here and actually being able to use this. I'm not like massively impressed with this because it is actually a spell skill that you have to notably actually hit yourself, and it has its own AoE, etc. So it's not something that's automatically proccing off of, you know, mobs that are getting close to being primed for stun, electrocute, or frozen. It's just something that happens when you actually use the skill. So that's sort of why I'm not too interested in that one. Now, if we go down here to the one under this, this is Fateful Vision. And this one is the one where we saw like a clone of yourself doing a skill. Basically, it's going to mimic a skill. You have to do the skill that they mimicked in order to get a bonus amount of damage. Now, the thing about this is it has a long delay between these. It's 9.15 seconds between these. So basically, every 9 seconds, you're getting like a clone of it. This frequency can be reduced per spell Visage could cast, casting the matching spell before the next Visage empowers it. So what this basically means is the more spells you have that it could actually cast on your bar, the more it's actually decreased. So the more that you're forcing it down to cast on one, the closer you are to that 9 seconds. And if there are more and more and more spells that it could actually choose from, it will reduce how long basically the delay is between this. I don't like this one really at all, to be quite honest with you, because, you know, if you cast the matching spell before the next Visage empowers it, and the empower only does 30% more damage. So this is like a support gem worth every 9 seconds baseline. Maybe you can get lower. It doesn't really seem like super interesting to me. The one nice thing about it is it's persistent. It's not like a skill you have to like manually cast yourself. It's a buff, so at least you're not having to manually do it. But that one doesn't really look like too interesting for me, so I'd probably skip that. But now we get to kind of the more interesting ones here, which is Walk the Paths Not Taken. Now in the reveal, they basically show that I think it was 150 or something passive skill points that are on the strength and basically druid side of the tree. So effectively, this gives you like a whole nother passive tree to be able to choose points from if you take this node. Speaking of the passive tree, the next one here is non-keystone passive skills in medium radius of allocated keystone passive skills can be allocated without being connected to your tree. So basically what this means is if you grab a keystone like this here within a medium radius around it, you could actually click like these notables if you wanted to be able to click the notables that were around something that maybe you actually acquired. This could be all right. I didn't think this looked that great. I had a conversation with Pastor and he convinced me that this would actually be like somewhat decent. So if you are going all in on the passive tree, and we don't know all of the nodes for the new passive skill tree, etc., this could actually look pretty decent. So that is the Oracle. Definitely looks better than I thought it was going to be, particularly because we actually see this, and then you get +1 maximum totems. That looks like it could actually be something. Now, the Shaman. This is probably what I'm going to start. We've seen some of these. We already knew this one, which is gaining 40 spirit for each of your empty charm slots is here. Obviously, you can have up to 3 charm slots. That's 120 flat spirit you could end up getting off of this one. But if you look at the next one here, gain the benefits of bonded modifiers on runes and idos. Now, we only saw a short example of this. It looked like it was things like Ignite Magnitude, some base crit on weapons, etc. This is entirely dependent how good this will be based upon all of the different modifiers we see on the runes and idos. As it is, it looks like it could be all right, but I didn't see anything yet that looks like it would be absolutely wild, so that remains to be determined. Basically, it's just bonus stats on the runes and idos. And if you don't know what idos are, they are what talisman used to be, because talisman are now the weapon for the druid. They renamed talisman, which are those socket of bows, or augments is now the term for socket of bows. Those are now just renamed to idols. They're basically the same thing, okay? Now, moving forward here, the next line, this one's the one that probably everyone's going to take. The first 2 points here is every 2 rage also grants 1% more spell damage. If you didn't know, rage in and of itself gives you 1% more attack damage per 1 rage. So now you get basically half of that effect as well into spell. And then the next notable here reads, no inherent loss of rage. So it's not just depleting itself. Regenerate 6% of your maximum rage per second. Increases and reductions to mana regeneration rate also apply to rage regeneration rate, which you might have some of that also if you're doing kind of like the hybrid spell thing. Or this is also kind of nice because if you are going into like pure spell, you're going to be like a spellcaster, and for whatever reason you take this because you're trying to get like the rage, more spell damage type of thing, then your mana regeneration you're taking also will help you get some more rage. Skills have +5 to rage cost. So things that are not a default attack is I believe the way this works, are qualified as a skill, basically anything that's not a default attack. And so it's going to cost you 5 rage to be able to do this. This should be fine. I don't think this is going to be any kind of problem because you can very easily get rage on hit, both on the tree as well as on jewels, etc. So I don't think this is like I don't think this is a big cost. +7 to maximum rage as well. And we saw earlier that the smaller nodes most likely are +4 and +4 maximum rage. So by the time you click on this node, you probably have +15 maximum rage. Your base rage is 30. So by the time you click these 2 points, you probably have at least 45 maximum rage if you didn't take any more rage anywhere else on the tree. Now, the next lines here, okay? 10% less elemental damage taken. Now, the way this reads to me is just from the top, just for clicking this 2-pointer here, you're just getting 10% less elemental damage taken. That's pretty good already. But then the next one here is adapt to the highest elemental damage type of each hit you take. And each adaptation, which is what the adapts basically give you an adaptation, grants 10% less damage taken of that adaptation type. And they say here what an adaptation is. Adaptations are gained by taking elemental damage from hits and cause you to take less damage from that type of elemental damage. So you get hit by lightning, you take less lightning, okay? Unless otherwise specified, you can have up to 3 adaptations at a time, and the adaptations do not have a duration. That is the baseline of it, and they specifically say that because of the next node we're going to talk about for a moment. So you have 10% less elemental taken. Let's say you get hit by like a fire 3 times in a row. Now you have 3 adaptations. All of these are of fire, for instance, and you're getting 40% less total elemental damage taken from just this node. This is the way I'm reading this, okay? So, seems pretty good, actually. Seems pretty good for a 2-pointer, I think. Now, following up here, the adaptations double in effect on the next node here, which means now we're getting 20%. But it has a downside of the adaptations have a duration of 5 seconds instead of being effectively infinite. So now you have 3 of these, and now we're talking 60% less damage taken of different elements, spread throughout 60% of one or 20% of each. Depends how that actually ends up spreading out. That actually seems really, really, really good. Okay, and then above that, 5% of physical taken as code, 5% of physical taken as fire, 5% of physical taken as lightning damage. If you're wondering why you would want to take physical damage as another type, it's because if you're taking these physical portions and you're taking 15% basically of the damage you take and you're spreading up between the 3 of these different elements, that means your resistances can actually calculate against this damage, which otherwise resistances don't work against physical damage, right? You have to mitigate with your armor, for instance. So because of that, the resistance is going to do a better job because it's just a flat percentage reduction than like your armor actually would. So this is a pretty big upgrade to your physical defensive prowess. But then also, because a portion of the physical damage you're taking is being reduced because it's this thing going elemental damage, the total number of physical damage you're taking is being lower. And the way armor actually works is that the smaller the hit, the more effective the armor formula actually works. So lowering the amount of physical damage you're taking as elemental damage is, again, like actually quite strong against the physical side of it as well. So this just seems to be like a pretty good node. Just straight up, both of these nodes actually seem pretty good as far as I am aware here. Now, going on to the next one here, turning of the seasons, enemies in your presence have exposure. This sounds all right, probably sounds better than it actually is, and you get 10% of damage as extra damage of a random element. This would be kind of nice if you don't have a way of applying like lightning damage and you just want to get a shock or something like that, sure. Not huge numbers, seems a little better than it is. The reason I say that is if you really want exposure, there is other ways to actually get exposure quite easily, as well as you could weapon swap something like the Whispering Ice unique, which will give you up to 60% exposure just for hitting them. So there are other ways to accomplish this, but having it be automated in your presence is actually quite nice. Now, moving on here. Grant Scale Apocalypse is the last of the nodes to talk about on Shaman. And if you actually look at this, the way this works is it's a spell, AoE, trigger, lightning, code, fire, duration, conditional, and storm tag spell. Meaning this will not scale with things like your attack increases, etc. If you're doing like a bear form and you want to do Apocalypse while in bear, anything you put into attack or melee damage or all those will not scale with this. But anything you put into like elemental damage, for instance, would actually proc into this. AoE damage would proc into this. It does seem like there's a good amount of that on the Druid tree, for instance, and it is a spell, so it would pair with your spell damage, but not your rage portion of the damage for attack, for instance. So there is ways to actually have this do something, even if you're attack guy. I am a little bit of a bum that's only like a spell tag, for instance, but this is basically kind of like the Walking Calamity you saw with the bear. It's going to cast down either Hailstorm, Meteor, Lightning, etc. It's just a big AoE. I don't think this looks like super crazy to me, but it requires 100 glory to be used. It does look like it'll be easy to build up the glory because you just build up glory by just hitting enemies. So you could like flame breath or something and like build up a ton of glory. So there'd be ways to have this be fine, but I'm not like massively stoked by the apocalypse once I've seen it. Otherwise, these look pretty good. Seems like there's some pretty decent nodes here. I like the avatar of evolution. I like the reactive growth. I like these rage nodes. Spirit could definitely have an argument to be used either early or with minions, and depending upon the runes and idols, this one could be pretty good too, but remains to be seen with that. So these are just kind of the ascendancies we've seen so far. Look pretty good. Let me know your thoughts.